Welcome to the Hyper Growth Zone podcast. This is your go-to resource for personal growth, mastering communication, and influencing and persuasion techniques that will help you unleash the full potential of yourself and others. Here is your host, Alex Morgan.
Welcome. This is episode 11 of the Hypergrowth Zone podcast. And if you haven't listened before, my name is Alex Morgan, and I'm a master trainer of hypnosis and NLP. And this episode is all about embracing change. Because guess what? Many people, they have a fear of the unknown. And if you can embrace the unknown, then chances are you can easily grow, you can develop, and you can really have all the success that you want. So it's important that you're open to embracing change, because this is how you personally transform. And if you want to learn more about transforming, then go ahead and get my latest book, The Transformative Power of Suggestion. It's now available on Amazon, in Kindle, and in paperback. So we kind of want to start off here understanding the importance of embracing change, because guess what? Embracing change, it's something that's going to happen. Change is always going to be thrown in front of us, especially in the field of personal development. It causes you to have the ability to adapt and be flexible. And that's one of the biggest things we believe in what we teach in our trainings is the person with the most flexibility, they can usually control the system or the outcome. So if you have behavioral flexibility, then you're going to be able to embrace change and get what you want. So if you have increased adaptability and you're always able to adapt to working with, let's say, different people or on different projects or on different things, then you're going to be more likely to achieve success and have more opportunities for growth. So there's lots of benefits to embracing change. And of course, one of those is the opportunity for growth. Because if you're always embracing change, then you're going to see that there are different opportunities, that there are more possibilities for you. There's going to be more opportunities to network, to make money, different projects. So this is one of the benefits of embracing change. The other is resilience. You're going to build your mental toughness, that strength, because you're going to be so used to embracing change and doing different things that when change comes, you'll adapt to it so easily. You'll be mentally tough and you'll be mentally strong. So let's look into some real life examples of people who have embraced change and how they achieve personal success. Really embracing change is taking that risk, whether it's big or small. And if you remember to the episode on the different growth zones, the second episode of this podcast, we talk about going to the hyper growth zone. And to get there, all you have to do is really take a small or big risk, and then you could get the results that you want. So just think about a time in your life when you took a risk and it actually got you what you wanted. That means you embrace change. So me, for example, I went bankrupt. You're going to share more of this in the first episode of this podcast and my personal story. And so I decided I needed to do something different. I need to embrace change. So I found a training so I could learn new skills. And I could learn things about myself on the inside so I could get all the results that I want on the outside. If I never embraced this change, then I wouldn't have achieved any success. I would have stayed where I'm at. So that's another benefit of embracing change is you get to move forward. You get new things. Because once we learn something new, our mind doesn't want to go backwards and think how we thought before. So with each episode, I hope you're always thinking about how you can apply each of these things to your life so your thinking could move forward. Because that's the most important thing that you really should take away, that your thinking should be always moving forward. It should be changing day to day, week to week, month to month. Those small changes in your thinking, they add up to big results. Now, I'm sure you've been around people who say something like, we're doing this and it's the way that we've always done it. Now, do you think people like this, do you think that they're embracing change? No, of course not. They're wanting to do things how they've always done it. And guess what? They're going to get the same results. So there's actually a huge difference in the results of this little small change in thinking. So if you think, hey, I'm going to embrace change versus I'm going to do things the way that we've always done them, if you just embrace change, you're going to get so much more than the person who wants to do things the exact same way. Another real example is most students who sign up for an NLP training, they're looking to embrace change because they're usually kind of tired of being where they're at. And that doesn't mean that they're, doing one thing or another, that they're in a job or they're an entrepreneur or anything. However, the results they're getting, they're not satisfied with. So they want to get more results. And so one common example is many students, they may be working in a job or have a career, and they either want to A, advance in that career, or B, they want to start their own business and become an entrepreneur. So they're ready to embrace change. So if you're thinking like this, then maybe an NLP training is something that you need to look into. So go ahead and contact me, Alex at athensnlp.com. So now it's time to look at navigating different career-related changes. Because career changes, they can have a huge impact on our personal development, our relationships, and ultimately our life. So there's many challenges that can arise when we're going into a different career. And so we need to look at how we can kind of navigate these different things. Now, having a career change or advancing in your career, it's good to embrace that because that means you're having more potential. There's more room for growth. There's more opportunities. So you need to look at it as a good thing. It may be scary at first. You may have a fear of the unknown at first because you're used to getting a certain salary or certain benefits, a certain paycheck. You know what to expect. So the way you can really embrace this is you need to just be relaxed about the situation. You need to make a decision and make it rather fast. Even though it may be a big decision, whatever you feel you think is right, then it's time to make that decision. And if you want to know more about decision making, I have an episode on decision making and how to simplify it so you can make big decisions easy for you. The thing is the skills that you will need when you advance in your career, most of the time you're not adding so many new skills. You're doing most of the same skills just to advance in your career. You just maybe need to be a bit better at those skills or be better at communicating, at networking, or adapting to new work environments. So if you can understand how you think and how you handle these situations, and you can do this with confidence, and that's all about controlling your state. So if you know that you have a really good grasp on controlling your state and you can see yourself as confident, and you can really hear the sounds of confidence and feel all that confidence, then you can easily navigate career-related changes. Because most of the time, career-related changes, it's just dealing with new people and a few new systems and maybe a few new skills. Chances are it's not going to be this huge change the way most people look at it. It's usually probably a small risk that you're taking, that you can have huge rewards, because then you're going to stretch your mind. You're going to stretch your thinking. You're going to meet new people. You're going to network with new people. You're going to be a part of a new team, systems. All these things will actually be good for you. So you need to think of it in this way. And I think something to consider here is when you're trying to advance in a career or embrace change in a career, is use your strengths. So use the things that you're good at. So me, for example, when I'm trying to adapt to a new team, I think I'm pretty good at observing how other people feel and how they communicate. So I focus on what they're saying when I'm first meeting them. So when I go to talk to them in the future, I can communicate with them how they want to be communicated to. Not how I want to communicate with them, but how they want to be communicated to. So when you adapt to change, consider your strengths and use those strengths to be confident in yourself so you can impress the new people that you're around. I think this would be really helpful for you. It'd be a really good skill that you could have to embrace change. And this also goes into how the relationships we have when we get into personal development and how we embrace change, how changes can occur within the relationships. Because as we discover new challenges, new possibilities, new opportunities, it may change some of the relationships, or some of our friendships may change. Or there's big changes in relationships as well. And how can you embrace those? Things like becoming a parent or having to move on from certain people. There's going to be challenges in relationships, and everyone deals with something differently. However, it's okay if relationships change, because people change. So the relationships you're in, they're going to change. Or if you're the one really embracing change, you're going to notice a lot of your relationships change because you may be thinking differently than the people currently in your relationship, or the people that you're in relationships with, friendships, colleagues, whatever it is. They're going to see you and think like, hey, you're changing. What's going on? You weren't like this before. So you have to be ready to hear these types of things as well. And the way that you can really deal with these is just be open with people and communicate to them what's important to you. You can let them know that embracing change right now and making really good changes in your life is important to you. So in order to build the relationship with them, they need to understand that you're doing this for you, and possibly you're doing this for them to make that relationship better, whether that's personal or professional. And another really good thing that you can do to make relationships better is you could practice self-care. So when you're going through lots of changes, you need to also consider that you're controlling how you feel. You're still sleeping well. You're lowering stress if any of these changes are causing stress. So you need to make sure that you're also taking care of yourself first so that you can actually embrace these changes. There's no sense in embracing changes if they're going to cause you lack of sleep, stress, and all these negative things. You want to embrace change and look after yourself, care for yourself, so that you can actually achieve what you want. Because if you're not achieving what you want and you're feeling bad, that's not going to be a good way to embrace change. So make sure that you have self-care. Now we can look at discussing the transformative power of personal growth and self-improvement. And so part of embracing change is the fact that you're going to go through a personal transformation. So you need to recognize when personal change is needed and how you can really manage that day to day. So if you embrace personal transformation, this means that you can do things like self-reflection, setting goals, and even seeking support. So self-reflection, this means that you can think about what you're doing and how this is actually improving your life. And this means that you can focus on what you want. And when you're focusing on what you want, you can actually take the actions to get what you want. And the easy way to do this and self-reflect on what you're actually achieving is think about what that is that you want to achieve and how you actually feel about that day to day, and put good thoughts out there about it. And if you do that, then you'll be more likely to achieve what you want. So when you're embracing change, make sure that you actually feel good about it. If you're not feeling good about it, then that means you probably have to create some sort of change as you're embracing that change. Because if you're self-reflecting and you're not feeling good, then please make a change. Now, at one point, I was trying to expand my business more and more, and I was doing things that I wasn't feeling so good about to expand it. I was creating some content that I didn't really like making. So I did some self-reflection, and I thought, why am I doing this? I'm actually not enjoying it. So now I'm creating content that I enjoy, including this podcast, and it's actually getting me better results. So I did a bit of self-reflection. Or let's say you're taking a new opportunity. I've done sales for companies. Let's say I'm taking on this new opportunity to do sales. If I don't believe after a certain amount of time in the product, then I need to self-reflect and say, hey, I don't believe in this product really. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Maybe I should take on a new opportunity, selling something else. So if you're not feeling good about what you're doing, then that's probably causing you to think like, hey, I need to make a change in how I'm actually embracing change. And so another way to embrace change, of course, you have to set goals. And setting goals is pretty easy. You need to just focus on what you actually want and be specific. And then you could work backwards, knowing the steps to what you have to do to achieve that goal. So you can kind of reevaluate your goal each day so you can get what you want. And an easy way to get what you want on the way to your goal is to set daily intentions. It doesn't mean that you're going to achieve your goal each day. However, intentions are small little steps that you can just achieve that day. So let's say you have a goal to make a certain amount of money. Well, you could wake up that day and you can set an intention that you have to reach out to a certain amount of people that day in order to eventually make that amount of money. And you'll know if you did that intention that day or not. So that's something I do. So personally, right now, let's say I want to have more podcast guests, or I want to be a guest on someone else's podcast. So I can make a daily intention of reaching out to a certain amount of guests, which I'll probably end up having guests very soon on this podcast. And I can reach out to a certain amount of people per day about being on their podcast. So I know at the end of the day if I hit this daily intention or not. And I think another really good thing that you can do is seek support. Because as you embrace change, you're going to be a part of new challenges, new possibilities, new opportunities. And maybe you won't know how to conquer all of those by yourself. So maybe you need to reach out to different people that have done what you want. That's the key. You want to reach out to people who actually have what you want to have, or they've done what you've done, or they are what you want to be. So I have different people that I can reach out to and say, hey, I'm trying to do this. What would you suggest? And often, sometimes I find support in books. I like to read a lot, so I find different support and I get really good ideas. So recently I was reading and it was, hey, if you had to start over and you didn't have an audience and you haven't written a book and you didn't have a website, what would you do? And this person said that they would build authority first. And they said, how would I do that? Well, I would start a podcast and I would start reaching out to people that I'd really want in my network to be on my podcast. Then I would take those podcasts and tell them that, hey, I'm going to turn these episodes into a book. So what the people were saying, the insights that they have, I'm going to turn that into a book. And then I can invite all these people to be a part of an online summit. So this builds their authority. By reading, I thought, well, this is a good idea. So this is also a way to seek support. Because if you follow this strategy and you have authority, many people are going to see, wow, this person's actually associated with all of them. And if you have these people on a podcast, and then they also want to be a part of your project to write a book, guess what? When the book comes out, they'll probably want to market it along with you because they're also in the book. So building authority, I learned this from seeking support in a book in a subject I wanted to be on. So you could either seek support like I do through books or through other people. This is how I do it. So I think it's really helpful to seek support along with self-reflection and setting goals. So the last little segment we'll have here, let's look at adapting to change and what that can do for you and what that'll allow you to do. So you're going to become more resilient, which I mentioned earlier. So in order to become more resilient, all you have to do is embrace change. And usually people who have a positive mindset or a bit more optimistic, it's easier for them to be much more resilient because they're actually focusing on what they want and they're actually embracing that uncertainty. And so as you embrace change, you'll get more and more used to embracing uncertainty. And when you embrace uncertainty and you become more resilient, what's the worst thing that can really happen if you embrace change? You might fail. You might do something incorrect one time. And there's no failure. We don't believe in failure here. There's only feedback. So when you embrace change, all it's going to do, it's going to give you success, or it's going to give you feedback on how you can do it that much better the next time. So these two are really big benefits of embracing change, because if you can gather feedback, then guess what? You're going to do so much better the next time. And let me give you an example of giving feedback and why this can be helpful for you. So anytime during one of our trainings, we give feedback in a certain way. And we give it when we do different exercise, when people are trying out the methods and techniques of hypnosis or NLP. And anytime they're doing something for the first time, we have to look at it that, yes, they're doing it for the first time. So not everything is going to be correct. However, there is no failure. There is only feedback. So the students, they have this thinking in their mind. And so we tell them, hey, you did a great job at doing this. And here's how you can actually stretch yourself and make it even better next time for you and for your client or whoever you're communicating with in the future. So they get feedback immediately. So it goes right into the unconscious mind. So this allows them to remember the feedback, because the unconscious mind, this is where all learning takes place. And learning, we believe, is state related. So we make sure they're in a nice, calm state when they receive the feedback, so then they can easily implement it in the future. So getting feedback is super important to embracing change, because there's only two things that are going to happen when you embrace change. You might have a little bit of doing something incorrectly. So you're either going to get feedback or you're going to achieve success. So I think those are two pretty good choices for you, aren't they? Feedback or success. So I think now it's time for you to embrace change. And if you're already embracing change, that's fine. Go ahead then and embrace bigger change. Think even bigger. Go after something that's even more than you could ever dream of. So really, that's it for this episode. Thanks so much for listening. Go out there and embrace change and do what you have to do to achieve success. And thanks for listening. And go ahead and rate this podcast wherever you're listening to it.